Thank you for coming, my friends. We are going to get started in just a minute. Here's an example of our tree that we're going to make today. It's a pretty simple exercise, but it's one that I do a lot because I like painting trees. I think learning how to paint foliage with watercolors is useful if you want to, pursue it. So anyway, all right, so we got our example here, and we got a few things that we need to get started. We got some clean water, right? We got our dirty water. We got our guard dog in the background. Thank you, Bo. Okay. And paper towels. All right, so the first thing to do to make this super easy is to just kind of sketch it out a little bit. And normally I'd take just a regular pencil. This is a blue pencil. Should be a little easier to see. So we'll start with the trunk. We'll start with the trunk, and we're going to put, like, this tree is just kind of off to the side. You can put your tree anywhere on the page. You can turn your page horizontally or landscape wise, and then portrait, or vertically oriented, whatever you prefer. I like to do it this way because it makes kind of cool little cards. You can give to people, whatever. Up to you. The canvas is your oyster. So we'll start with the trunk, and it's just 2 parallel lines. Real light. It looks like you can still see it on the camera, but it's real light. Right? And then at the top, it's going to widen out a little bit. And then we'll have little parallel lines to those wider angles, right? So you still have your main tree coming up. Then you have these little branches coming off, branching off. Okay. Down here at the bottom, it sort of flares out a little bit as well, because underground, you may not know this, but underground, the roots look very similar to what the branches of the top of the tree look like. Now, we're not going to draw the whole network of branches because A, that would take so long, and B, we are not going to see them. So a good rule when you're trying to recreate something visually or create the impression of something is, like, if you don't see it, then don't draw it, don't paint it, whatever. If you don't see it, it's not there. If there's a line on the edge of a surface, and you really, if you're looking at it, can't tell the difference between that line and what's behind it, you don't have to accentuate that line. You may want to sort of bring others to the forefront and let that have its natural effect. Anyway, sort of getting off topic there, but the top of the tree is just going to be like a big, fluffy, mesh of, it's just a big old mess here. And you don't want to go too heavy with these lines again because, I don't want to have too much left over when I'm done with this. Or maybe you do, and that's okay too. But for this exercise, we're going to try to keep the lines light. So I like to just kind of scratch along and find. Let's bring this over here so we can have a little reference. Sort of find the outside area of where these things are going to be. Right. That's the outside area. And we don't exactly have to adhere to this later on when we're painting it in, but it's good to have a guide. Just remember, this is just an exercise. I personally will not be submitting this to any museums or art competitions. You may, if you do a really great job. And that's cool. But I'm just taking it easy, kind of making a tree. A happy tree, if you will. tree is a little bit bigger than in the example, and that's okay. This tree's had a little bit more time to grow. Now also what I'm going to do is just give myself a very light reference for where I want some of the shadows to be. So you see in this, the light is coming from up top. You know, maybe it's a sunny day out. The light's coming from up top. So light in here is going to come up from up top too. So I'm going to end up with these shadowy areas under here. You know, and there's no real rhyme or reason to how I'm making these shapes. I'm just trying to give myself an idea, like, oh, maybe there's a clump of foliage, you know, extruding out towards me as the viewer. Maybe in this area right here. So what would it have? It would probably have a little shadow under here. This isn't obviously a circle or a square or any sort of real simple shape, but I'm just imagining the shapes of the leaves and the branches holding all the leaves and stuff, and where some of those shadowy areas would be. Now, again, you see down here, it's not dark all the way to the bottom. There's some light down here too, and that's because some light would be coming down here and maybe either bouncing up off of the surface down here or just passing through the tree. You know, obviously you have some of these white areas in here, and we'll try to leave some of those when we do this as well, because some of that light's going to be passing through the tree. The tree's not totally opaque, right? Maybe I have a light area up here I kind of want to block out. Maybe another one right there. Give some little shapes here where I'm going to leave, you know, a lighter spot. Be over here as well. Use probably some more darker areas up in here. Make that shape up. Darker area in here. Some down here by the trunk. This is a nice healthy tree here. Alright. Now you can, if you want to keep going further with this, I guess we should probably just finish out the sketch since we're here doing it. Just give yourself a horizon line if you want. And in this case it was diagonal, whatever. In this case, you know, maybe we'll do the same. We'll do kind of like, it's a little bit more horizontal. So that's sort of the horizon line, right? And then we have the tree that goes down to the ground and maybe kind of flares out this way. I don't want to get too detailed with these pencil sketches. I know I personally have a tendency to get carried away because I love drawing with pencil. I had a teacher once tell me that learning how to draw with pencil was the fundamental to all the other visual arts. Does it really help you understand how shapes work together and, you know, establishing that connection between your hands and your brain, all that good stuff. So I don't want to get too carried away. We got our pencil sketch, and we should probably get into the painting part right now, because that's the fun part, right? The messy part. And we'll keep our reference handy so we don't get lost. If we have time, maybe we'll do more than one of these, one without a sketch, just to see how it fares. Alright, so I got my colors, get my H2O. My supplies here. I'll rinse off my brush and go ahead and get some yellow here. Oh, you know what? I forgot a really important part. Should probably wet down the inside of my tree a little bit. So I'm going to rinse off this brush, get some clean water, and just wet down. This is just a half sheet of paper. When I do these exercises, I like to do them on smaller sheets because it saves paper, and watercolor paper or art paper can kind of get a little pricey, and besides, after you've done this for so long, it gets much easier to store these tiny sheets than it does the big ones. And hopefully you get to that point, because that means you're practicing, getting better. So I got a nice little base of water down in the tree foliage area where all the green stuff's gonna go. I'm gonna get some yellow, and I'm gonna start up here. Some yellow, just bring some yellow highlights down onto the top of my tree. Now I remember I have these dark areas, I'm gonna try to stay away from those. I'm looking at the highlights on my tree over here, and I'm gonna kind of try to stick with that as a reference. Right? I don't want to spend too much time doing this, but this blue pencil is pretty visible here, but that's okay. So we're going to do another one without the pencil stuff. And just a little bit. And just a wee bit. Now, if you guys, I think my friend Dylan is here moderating with us today. So if you guys have any questions or anything, please feel free to ask. If it's something I see and I can answer, I will ask him. If not, Dylan might beat me to the punch because he's a smart cat too. All right, so I got a little yellow down here. I don't want to get too loco with it here. I'm gonna get some. Oops, sorry, camera. I'm gonna get some green. Go back to this camera so I can see what I'm doing here. Ooh, that shine from the light is kind of wild. Look at that. That's all right. Right there, should be okay. All right, I don't want this to dry on me. Get my brush wet. Get some green, some verde. And I'm gonna go down underneath some of these yellow areas. And I'm trying to leave some white stuff, some white blocks of color there for the light that's gonna be shining through. I don't want to get enough of this green in here that, you know, looks like leaves. Out of here at the edges, just real gently kind of going out to the edges here. Some of this stuff out. And I want to, while I'm playing with this, just add a little bit more yellow to this outside edge here. I want some of that on the back of the tree. I like painting trees. I get asked a lot for portraits, and while I do enjoy the challenge of painting faces, painting trees are fun. Painting trees is fun because you can make all kinds of little mistakes. It's a much more, sort of for me anyway, sort of relaxed, organic process to paint a tree than to paint a person. Because you could put a branch on one side or the other, but you can't really do that with someone's nose. Or maybe you can. It's just a different kind of art. So, while we're imagining what a portrait would be like if you moved someone's nose, I'm going to add some dark colors in here for the shadows. So, make sure I got enough. Looks like my green kind of got a little too far into the area up here. That's all right. You can wipe some of it back with a clean brush and add some more yellow in a little bit once it dries up a little. for now, though, I'm going to go into this dark areas. Let's see if we can make a darker color. It's the darkest color I got on here. I'm not going to go into the black yet. Oh. Purple. Yeah. I'm just going to make a mess over here. We're going to get some purple. And I am going to get some of this black, just to make sure it gets nice and dark. Alright, so we're going to go into some of these darker bottom areas here. Darker bottom areas here. Let's start spreading some of this stuff out. I'm just plopping this watercolor down and letting it do its thing, seeing where it falls. And it mixes in with the other stuff around it. It's hard to tell what that shiny light looks like. There we go. A little bit more green in here. My green doesn't seem to be as strong. This watercolor paper is just soaking it right up. I'll mix some of this in so it's not so bold. Well, I'm going to let that dry for a little bit so I can add some more color on there in a second. And then we will work on the tree for now. So I can rinse off my brush, get some brown paint. And I want to leave some lighter color on one side of this. So we're going to try to stick with the left side. So really lightly, I'm just using the tip of my brush to put lines in here. And this is where I was talking about, if you don't see a line, I'm not going to maybe complete that line. I'm just going to leave it there. And then this right side, I'll have it more pronounced and heavier handed, because that's where a lot of the shadow is going to be. Right. So that's going to be the right side of our tree. Some more shadow color. And then bring it to the same right side of our tree. Some of that's drying, so it looks like I can add some more yellow on the side. More yellow. Now, this is the second pass, so I'm using less water now and more paint. If you use a lot of water, it might start to activate the paint that's underneath it again, depending on what kind of paint you're using. In this case, I'm using like kids' watercolor paint, which I'm sure would probably start to respond if it had too much water on it, right? In some cases, you can kind of start seeing that here, but it's okay. You can still see my blue lines there, but if you used a lead pencil, you might not see it as much. Another way to do this, obviously, is coloring pencils, watercolor coloring pencils, which I really enjoy. I think they're a lot of fun. You can do some cool experiments. And then I got I stopped by the office the other day and picked up some cool watercolor crayons, which look like a lot of fun. And I'm really looking forward to giving those a shot, seeing what we can make with those. So you're starting to see this tree start to take its shape here. Where else would I find a shadow? Shadow turned out a little bit more intense than I had intended, but that's okay. We'll go with it. We will go with it because it's art, right? Make a plan. Sometimes you gotta change that plan. That's okay. It's an inevitable reality of life. It may stress you out in all kinds of other areas, but we're just making a painting, so there's no stress here. No stress at all. Some more greens in here. I don't want to go too crazy with this because we'll just get lost in it, but darken this up down here a little bit more. That little tree trunk. And since that shadow is so intense there, you may want to do a similar thing on the tree trunk, just to be consistent. Right? So put a little bit, get a little heavy with the black down here. Side. Now it looks like this tree, the light is coming from behind it. Take some of this off here. Oh, that's kind of cool. It turned out pretty neat, actually. There we go. Down here. All right. That's better. I feel better about that now. So we got some, open areas here where some of that light might be passing through. Maybe there's a branch in there. We could always maybe just get a tiny little speck of brown and just like put a little hint of a branch in there somewhere. Real light-handed. You don't have to do this. Kind of overkill. It's fun. It's an art project. No rules. All right, so We got our land, and we're going to have a shadow here too. Shadow, I think I'm going to mix up some green and blue. Green for the grass, blue for the sky. Make it a little darker than the regular grass. All right, so we're just using primary and secondary colors here, really. I'm not going too crazy with our color choices. Some green and blue. Nice watering mix. So it looks like our shadow is kind of coming down here this time. Instead of going up at a you know, sort of a higher angle than this, it's going to go a little differently. I think this one's going to come out this way. And maybe it's going to be somewhere in here. Right? Why not? That looks good to me. See, there wasn't any real plan. There wasn't any real plan there. Just kind of spread it out. Imagined maybe this would be down here. This might be farther out this way. That looks like it might be an okay shadow. And now, when I think about the rest of the ground, I'm going to rinse off my brush, clean it really well. Get this surface here kind of damp, where I'm going to put my grass. And then put some yellow towards the top here. Make real careful not to paint into my tree, because I don't want that brown to start leaking into the grass color. That's kind of what I want to avoid. May happen. If it does happen, it's alright too, but whatever. Get a little green and come in here and start spreading it around. Again, that surface is nice and wet. It should blend out nicely. Come down here, get kind of close to your shadow color. Make sure this green and this yellow meet up and do some interesting things with their time there. Take this up a little bit higher. There we go. Still have that yellow up top, but we've got greens down here. Real easy stuff. Real easy, fun stuff. And we're probably, yeah, we have plenty of time. We'll do another one without the pencils. Now, if you guys are trying this at home, would love to see your work. I don't know if I can see the comments here currently, but if you post them, I will see them later. And that would be awesome. Because the whole purpose is here is to inspire you guys to do art and hopefully reach some folks who can't get out. Remember, these are just kids' watercolors. They're not professional grade, etc., fancy pants watercolors. These are just kid supplies we're doing most of this stuff with. We've got about, gosh, I want to say almost 70 videos at this point. And they're all videos using simple supplies. So if you get a chance later, check out the YouTube channel. Subscribe. Check out our website. There's all kinds of cool stuff on there. Coloring pages. It's like 100-something free coloring pages up there. Alright, I'm getting a little carried away with my tree. So anyway, I'd say that's a pretty good example for the first one. Little shady tree. A little different than this, not too much. A little darker. We'll try to make it lighter this time. Put this aside. Where's my other paper? Here we go. We'll let that other one dry, and then we'll play with this one for a while. All right. So starting over, but without the pencil. Let's get back in the camera here. Starting over without the pencil. Rinse off my brush. Some yellow. Start at the top here. So wherever I think the top is going to be. Just making tiny little brush strokes here with my yellow to figure out where the lighter areas and the darker areas are going to be. So I guess some like there, some like there, some light over here, some light over here, light over here. You don't have to follow my example. You can make all these little spots out of your own decisions, and I hope you do, you know, but if not, this is a good way to practice, to use a reference from a photograph or from like a video like this or something like that. References do help a lot to build your ability to see and interpret what you see. And that skill will help you in more than just making art, but it will help you in that too. We live in such an incredible, beautiful world with so many cool things we see every day. So you gotta pay attention to them a little bit closer once in a while, you know? So I got some yellows. I think those are good places for my yellows to be. I look pretty happy there. Rinse off my brush again. Go into some green. And then start plopping some of this green down underneath my yellows. I want it to start bleeding into that yellow color. Now I know I didn't wet the paper before I started doing this, and that's okay. I wanted to try something different. And it's a good thing. Trying different things is good. No, in the art. You know. You can experiment with all kinds of things in art and not do any real damage. So I'm spreading out these greens, and hopefully they're catching into the yellows, and they're bleeding in there. You know, make them. Ooh, went into the wrong one. Making a mess over here. Good stuff. Some more leaves, paint along. Trying to leave some of the green, or I'm sorry, the yellow on the outside edges, and try to leave it visible in here. And got some down at the bottom of our big tree. One thing I like about not using pencil first is, well, A, you know, you don't end up with all those lines afterwards, which can be cool, but B, you know, you I think more importantly, you can change the art while you're making it. You know, to have the pencil lines kind of sometimes I feel like it's a little restricting. Like, what if I plop something out a little too far on one side, and I feel like I want to balance it out. I want to make my tree, you know, fluffier on this side over here, for instance. I can do that. I can do that. If I have a pencil line, I'm gonna just feel, you know, sort of restricted somehow. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Everybody's got their thing. All right. I'm gonna add a little bit more yellow before I go into the darker areas here. Just go up here. Just add some yellow stuff because I kind of want more highlight on these outside edges. Could make a mess out of my watercolors. It's okay. We'll get some shadow in here too, maybe. Start just a little blue. I'm just using blue this time. Just using blue. Fun experiment, and this works really well if you are in the woods. Some of my favorite places are in the woods. Is go outside and look at the trees. Look at all the trees. And what month is this? August. So it should be no snow where you are unless you're really far north. Go outside, look at the trees, and try to count how many shades of green you see. Just green. Just the one color green. You can even do this in some like suburban areas because there are still so many shades of green. It's one of my favorite things to do on long car rides, if I'm not driving, of course, is to count the shades of green that I see. Such a cool color, it's everywhere, you know. I actually really like how this blue turned out better than using the black for shadows in the foliage, but that's no surprise, I think. Because blue just has kind of sort of a more rich effect. The black paint tends to flatten things out a little bit if not used properly, right? A little bit more blue down here. I get some up in here just so it doesn't seem so weird and one-dimensional up there. There are all kinds of different ways to do this. There are definitely all kinds of different ways to do this. So, you know, don't be limited. Don't feel limited. Ooh, sorry, earthquake. Don't feel limited by what I'm doing. You know, you can try different things. You can use stamps or whatever. You know, sometimes a fun exercise is to like get a paper towel, kind of tap in there. Let me pull some of it up, you know. No rules. It's just paint. It's just paint. Work on my tree trunk a little bit, so I got some brown paint. Came down here. I want to say the tree trunk comes down this way. And on the other side, I'm going to be a little lighter with it because that's where my light is. Lighter pressure, that is. Right? And kind of string in some brown lines. Just showing this texture of this tree. I'm not going to obviously go in there and paint every little detail of it, but I think having those vertical lines does give a hint of it. You can even make a little knot there. And I did like the black for that shadow of the tree. Something about this black in this paint works pretty well here. It's only been 45 minutes. We painted 2 trees. This is a really easy exercise that you can do at home. Practice, just practice, you know. Just keep practicing. You don't like the way I do it? Try a different way. You may find something that works better for you. You know, and that's okay too. It doesn't matter how you get there. It's just that you try. Art is good for not just the people that see it, but it's also really good for the people that make it. Sometimes it's more important, you know. Sometimes just sitting down and looking at a tree for 10, 20, 30 minutes could make your whole day a little bit easier. Could make you a more fun person to hang out with. I know it does me. Could make you stop and think about something that you're going to say before you say it. Maybe find a way to word it that's easier to communicate, to get the message through. Or maybe you'll just stop thinking about the busy day that you had. That's good for all of that. I'm just adding some more greens in here because I feel like the colors weren't saturated enough. Ooh, there's my Pink Panther cell phone ring there, sorry. Get some more dark shadow on this side of the tree here. Getting distracted. Getting lost in the shades of green up there as I'm talking about them. And I left some little areas in here, but I think what I'm going to do is go in and add some yellow to some of these areas too. I really like how this yellow looks peeking through the green. Kind of suspiciously peeking through the other side there. And kind of wonder what's going on inside this tree. Little birds and squirrels and lizards or whatever. I don't know. Reconnect that area a little bit. I really can't wait to mess with those watercolor crayons. That's going to be a lot of fun. There we go. Taking a little water and kind of mixing some of these greens and yellows up a little bit more. Kind of blending them into each other. Now that it's started to dry a good bit, it's starting to act the way that I want it to. I'm just using the tip of the brush to scratch into it almost really lightly. Of course, just a little bit of yellow down here. A little bit poking out down here at the bottom. It's like rim lighting, right? When you look at an object, you see it's not just lit from one side. Usually the light kind of goes around it a little bit, especially when you're talking about a light source as huge as the sun. It does tend to hit all sides of something on a sunny day. Bounce off walls and whatever it does. Because light has weight. Believe it or not, but that's physics and not art, so I don't think we're going to go there today. So let's see, I got my idea for a tree here. Now I'm gonna do the same thing. I got, let's see, I got some green, mix up some green and some blue. Make some green and some blue over here. And then say my shadow, looks like right here. And then something like, just scratch this out. Scratch it. It's not going to be too detailed because it's sort of on a flat surface. You know, when you're looking at, you're trying to plan out a shadow, you want to imagine where the light source is. You know, say my light source in this case is somewhere back here, but like far off. And it's going to be shining the light down, and you want to sort of draw an imaginary line like this. Right? If I were to do that, it would look like the line would look something like that. You know, maybe like this. So if I were to try to be as accurate as possible, you know, I would plan out where the sun is and make sure my shadows line up. You know, for this, it's not super important that we get this, you know, super accurate, but that's how you do that. You know, maybe the sky is like higher over. I'm sorry, maybe the sun is coming from directly over, and it'd be more something like that. In which case, you'd have darker areas underneath here, right? Darker areas underneath your tree. And some greens around here. And then some yellows over here. I didn't really define the shadow very well on this one, but that's okay. That's alright. I'm happy with that tree. I could go in here and be a little bit more aggressive about it. You know, let's say that tree is getting lit from more directly on top of it. You know, you wouldn't see as much of the trunk. You'd see, I'm sorry, the trunk shadow. Now you'd see more like around the tree, the base of the tree. So, you know, that's just an exercise, again, to practice mixing colors. Just, what did I use? I used yellow, green, blue, brown, and black. All from, you know, this little kids watercolor pack. I didn't have to go out and spend a fortune on art supplies. You can do that, and yeah, you know, you will get oftentimes better quality in the sense of you'll get more pigment. You'll get more pigment in your paints. It'll be really a lot brighter. Also makes a difference the kind of paper that you paint on. But just to practice and just to, you know, have these exercises, just have a good time. You know, you don't need anything fancy. So that's kind of cool. It's kind of similar to our example there. It's a little bit more vibrant. We got this other example here too. It came out all right as well. I think that's going to conclude everything that we're doing for today. But I just want to say thanks. Thanks to everybody who joined. Thanks to everybody, you know, if you're checking this out on Facebook after the fact, after it's been recorded. We're also going to be, tomorrow morning, I will make sure to add all the bells and whistles and upload it to the YouTube channel. So if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, check that out. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, go on there and check it out. There are tons and tons of videos And again, if you did do this today, or if you do this again in the future, send us a picture with your art, or put it in the comment section of the Facebook feed, or, you know, send it to us on Instagram somehow. You know, we'd love to see it. We'd love to share it. You know, we want to inspire you to do art and make the world a little bit more of a colorful place. And with that, I will wish you a happy day, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.